Kevin! That's how we are. All right, guys, we're joined again by Kevin!
That was loud. Welcome to the Hombu Dojo podcast, folks. We have myself, Rue. We have Ross Stewart over there. Say hello.
Hello.
We have Kevin Downard with us.
Kevin!
Hello.
Who is staying at the dojo as our intern for the moment. And he has just completed his first full week of Hombu Dojo karate training. How do you feel? How's the body?
Hey, exhausted.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I think everything's pretty much sore. So I think you touched all bases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the toughest day for you, do you think?
I would have to say the first day of the Tabata was, just kind of a shock, and like you in your head you're thinking, okay, it's gonna be tough and it's gonna be hard, but then when you're like, okay, you come in, you're like, oh yeah, it's definitely everything you probably would think would be, and then plus more.
So, just in case there are folks out there who don't know, Tabata is the name of some Swedish doctor, I think, who invented this kind of interval training where you do 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 8 times. So you have 4 minutes of intensive training, and when you're on for the 20 seconds, you're on. Like you don't pace yourself. You go hell for leather, and you take 10 seconds off, and you go again. So you can do it with any kind of exercise. You can do it with jumping jacks. You can do it with, I don't know, whatever you want. But we do it with karate techniques such as repetitive gyakuzukis, kazamizuki gyakuzukki, maigeri. Then we do we do
Yokogeri, Mashigeri, we do everything. Like
Yeah,
Kihon, we do it with kumite drills.
And then we do oikomi, where we fly up and down the dojo doing freestyle techniques.
Do it with partner drills as well sometimes.
Yeah.
We'll have somebody attack and you defend block counter, attack block counter, and you just go as many, like back and forth, as many as you can within that 20 seconds.
It's a really good way to train, but it is... when it's your first time, when it was my first time, I thought I was either going to puke or die. Or puke and then die. Or die and then puke, which would be even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was lucky because I was doing a lot of not Tabata, but high interval training before I came here. That was
Fair.
one of my fitness things that I was doing in Scotland at the gym and stuff. So doing it with karate techniques was a change. The muscle groups you're using were totally different. So yeah, the next day was tough. Like you definitely felt it the next day. But I think for people who come into the dojo like yourself, Kevin, I think they think you can watch it. We've done a few Facebook Lives. We've recorded ourselves doing it a couple of times. There is stuff out on the internet of us doing it, but you watch it and you think, oh yeah, that looks tough. But when you're actually forced to do it and you see the speed that, Scott Sensei and Tommy said the rest of us are all trying to move at, and you think you have to keep up, it becomes a shock, yeah?
Yeah, don't be fooled by the videos.
When I started working here, of course, I'd already had a taste of instructors training from my internship, and even before that, after I got my black belt, I joined the morning crew for a while before I was thinking of becoming an instructor. So, I guess I knew what to expect. But that first time, just over 3 years ago, no, about 3 years ago, when I first joined the morning crew, man, yeah, I thought it was just, there's no other way to describe it than a shock. And I suppose we're not really going to be able to get our listeners to comprehend just what a shock it is or how it feels. But you acclimatise, you get used to it. I think anybody can get themselves up to a level of cardiovascular, stamina where they can grin and bear it.
Right. It's not even so much to bear it, because I think what we always say to everyone is it's always feels as terrible as it feels. You just get used to feeling terrible. Because the fitter you get, the more reps you get in, the faster you move, the more the more you have to work to push yourself to that limit. So you're always giving it 100% on every, you should be giving it 100% on every set. So it doesn't matter how fast you get, how good your cardiovascular system gets, you're always pushing it to that limit,
Yeah.
How much did cardio factor into your training before you came here, Kevin?
Scott sent me some stuff, and he's like, you may want to work on this, and this. So, going back a few months ago, I started implementing a little bit of the tube training, right? The tube with the, but doing it like Tabata with tube.
Okay, cool. Cool.
So a little bit of that added in during the week, but no way is how do you sit there and prepare for it.
There is no preparing for it, really, is there?
There's just no. So yeah. And like you're seeing everybody around you doing it, and like he's talking, Ross was saying, everybody's busting their ass out there. So it's not like everybody's like, it's not so you're like, yeah, I'm exhausted, but you're looking around, you're like, everybody's exhausted.
True.
So they're just at a different level than
it just takes a little bit more for them to get exhausted, but they're like I said, you're still trying to push that limit every time.
You've got to give as much as you can give.
So since your first week, you've got to see some of the classes that we teach when it comes to kids, when it comes to adults. You got to train with Scott Sensei last night, and that was the first time you trained with him in the dojo. Yeah. Any differences from your experience? Training in a dojo, teaching in your own dojo. Is there anything different, or did it sort of reaffirm a lot of what you were doing already?
Excuse me. Well, I've been, following Scott for probably the last 3 years and going to seminars in the U.S. So I started grasping onto some of the principles that he teaches upon. So started adapting that into the training. So it seemed very comfortable coming into the class, and I was like, that seemed very familiar compared to where the instructor's training was like a shock, because you don't see that. You don't see that in a Scott Langley seminar.
Very rarely would he incorporate anything like that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think what's going to be very good about it is that instead of just having a seminar where you may see Scott once every 3-4 months, that I get to be here all month long. Just trying to drill those principles into my own karate, and trying to everybody, like you guys watching me last night and making corrections, and I don't get that back home, so I only take a tidbit.
Are you enjoying the corrections, or are you a bit like, piss off, guys?
No. I mean, it's like, it can be like, I mean, deflate your ego if you had an ego onto it, but that's what I'm really here for, is to get those corrections so I don't leave here and still look the same.
You can't get better if you think you're already the shit,
Yeah. I mean, the purpose of coming here was really trying to correct the things going on where I thought like I was getting an idea of what Scott was teaching from just seminars and stuff, and compressing on the hip and turning on the heel, and all these ideas of footwork and different things that I'm having some trouble with, of course.
And I wanted to bring that up because I was going to ask you what things so far have been highlighted for you that you need to work on, and if I was imagining your response would be footwork, and I wanted to talk about that. Do you think that's it so far?
I think that's one of the key things, like through like the instructor's training, the footwork that's involved in everything is a little bit, if you've never done it before, it's kind of hard to just like turn it on and try to figure it out. But I think there's a lot more things, just like driving off the rear leg, which has to do with the footwork too, and hip rotation and relaxation in between hip rotations, and so there's upper body tension. I mean, there's a lot going on. Being very stiff.
I had a little epiphany at one of my training sessions last week, actually, when I was teaching. I was talking about the inner thigh muscle squeeze, and just how we do it in movement when we step forward in Zenkutsu Dachi, or step back into Kokutsu Dachi, or just in general any stance. And I was saying like that internal tension. And everyone always, like, you always ask, do you understand? And the class always goes, oh. Like last night, Scott was teaching about driving forward and having this upper body relaxation in between the first technique and the second technique, doing Kazamizuki, Oizuki, and how you're driving off the back leg to get yourself moving, and then in between you're having this inner thigh muscle squeeze to bring that leg in as you recoil your hand, and then drive again as you make the Oizuki. And everyone goes, but then after I was getting pissed off after the fucking a millionth time of doing it, and everyone's still saying I'm like, I think to myself, none of them understand what he's talking about, like none of them. And last week I was talking about, so like a lot of people in the class when they're doing Kokutsu Dachi, like a common problem is their back foot overturns, so their toes are pointing behind them, and then their knee starts to drift back, and then they end up in that sort of half Shikodachi, half so
It's a really bad back stance.
A really bad back stance. And I was like, no, you have to have that tension in your stance at all times to sort of put that brake on that movement so you don't go past that line. And they were and I was like, do you get what I mean? And they tried to do it, and I was like, no, you don't. And I was like, and then I literally went to one of them, like, grab my leg here and try and pull it. And then they could feel how much fight there was against them trying to pull it. And I was like, that's what my stance is like all the time. Every stance has that kind of feeling. They were like, oh, that's kind of like, fucking 5 years I've been here talking about this and none of you could do it. Like, oh my God. It was just, it'd drive you fucking mental. And that's like getting ready for gradings and stuff just now, you know? Like trying to go through those details, you know, and sometimes you're like...
It's too late for you.
Yeah,
we have our grading, we have our summer course tomorrow. We're talking to you on a Friday as usual, folks. Tomorrow we have Christian Ogartset and Paul Uren teaching our summer course, and the next day as well. And we've got gradings on. We've got a lot of people grading. And I think we've mentioned this, we talked about this a bit on the podcast before, but coming up to gradings is a stressful time for an instructor. Is it not, Ross?
I mean, there's a whole bunch of stress that comes with getting people ready for gradings, especially like this one's been a tough one because we had a grading at the end of March, beginning of April.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 weeks of training, and then we had 2 weeks of Easter holidays where everyone leaves. The dojo gets very, very quiet over the Easter holidays. And then everyone comes back. But then we had like 2 bank holidays in between that as well.
Yeah, we've had a lot. So we've had 3. Yeah,
it's been it feels like there's been no time between one grading and the next, and it shows in the students this time round because it's there's a lot of people that I've turned away from this grading who are asking to grade and stuff, and I'm saying it's just the time's not, there's not been enough time in between. And that's stressful. But telling kids that they can't grade and stuff,
it's heartbreaking.
It is tough because you never want to hold kids back, but you don't want them to go out and fail either. You know, like you don't want. I think it's maybe even worse to put them in there when they're not ready.
Yeah.
But it's definitely that's tricky. That's the hardest part for me.
I have a very large class on Mondays, and of course we've had so many bank holiday Mondays. So these guys have gotten the least amount of training since the last grading, and their level is good on this particular class. Like they have a good level. Attitude could be better. Discipline isn't quite there, but I mean that's just they're kids. But a lot of them do try hard. They do switch it on when the time is right.
Yeah.
And they were all really keen to grade, and I had to tell a whole bunch of them that it'd be better not to go for it, or they run a high risk of failing. And God, it was really hard. I felt down afterwards. Yeah. I felt like a big bollocks myself because I feel responsible, and I think there's definitely maybe a lot of kids and a lot of parents whose point of view is that it is our job to make sure the kids are ready for grading. And in certain ways that is the case. But then there's things you can't help, like I said, bank holiday Mondays, or even just, the amount of focus that a particular kid has. You can try your best and a kid won't cotton on in time.
I think it's a double-edged sword because then you obviously have, you have that pressure from parents saying, well, I'm paying this money and I want to see my kid progress. Yeah. You're not doing your job if they're not progressing. I mean, and you have that pressure to an extent. And then but then you also have the pressure of if you then say, fine, you can go for it, and then they don't get it, you then get that pressure from the parents saying, why did they not get it? They weren't, and it's like, well, and you sort of look and go, I did say, they can't, they weren't ready, this is your fault. But yeah, I think that's why it's always better to be strict with it and say, no, if I'm looking at you in class and saying you're not ready, I'm not going to let you go for it. But then you get parents who just put them in for it anyway, and they show up on the day and they've registered, and you're like that.
Parents, huh?
Parents.
We'll get back to that. First, I just want to ask, Kevin, do you run gradings at your own dojo back in Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, we do gradings, but I think my system's a little more different, that I don't have... At the point, I don't have set dates. I mean, I kind of follow the seasons, so I know I'm going to have a summer and spring, winter, fall grading going on. But I really I don't set it up to where they register to test, it's like I just kind of scan and say, you're ready, you're ready, you're ready, you're ready, you're ready.
When enough of them are ready,
and when it's kind of like you're watching and you say, I think I got a group that's ready, but I'm not dealing with the mass students you're dealing with.
I think that's a very, like, I imagine that sometimes, like if I have my own place, like, it'd be so cool just to not have the pressure of getting people ready for a certain date.
Yeah.
You just decide, okay, the class looks like they're ready to move up a level. Let's have a grading, next month.
That sounds pretty cool.
It sounds very relaxing and stress-free.
So I'm picking who I mean, it's like I know they're going, unless they just black out and screw everything up, I know when I tell them you're ready to test that, I know that they're going to pass the test, that they've got everything it takes. So I don't really deal with that stress. Now it's kind of different with Scott Sensei doing all the showdowns. Yeah. So now it's like it still puts the pressure on that you're like when you see them coming up to like purple brown belt levels, you're like, okay, some of the little things that you may have been getting away with for a while, it's time to really hit it down because you're not testing under me.
Well, that'll be when you have the same thing that we do. You'll have Scott Sensei booked for a certain date of the year, and you're like, okay, if you guys want to go for your showdown, you've got to be ready by this time. Here, this is your chance, sort of thing, and that's when you maybe feel that pressure,
Right.
It's tough. Like we've got 2 guys grading for showdown at the weekend, and one of them, Ben, teenager, been at the dojo since before I came here. He's he's almost like the dojo mascot, like in a lot of ways. He's very much the junior heart and soul. I always think he's the junior heart and soul of the dojo. Like he's a lovely, funny boy who you love him to death, but sometimes you're just like, Ben! One of those,
let's just say the dojo wouldn't be the same without Ben.
Never. Like, oh my God.
Ben will be listening. He told me yesterday.
Yeah, he listens, to the podcast. So shout out to Ben, and he's going tomorrow, so good luck to Ben tomorrow. But what's really cool is I remember teaching Ben when he was in the kids' class, and he was tiny. Now he's like a foot taller than me now. I think
he's like 6'6" or 6'7".
He's huge, but I remember how much he used to talk and mess all the time, and just like it wouldn't be badly behaved, but he'd be one of those kids where it's just like, will you just focus and work hard, and you've seen him mature and grow into this young teenager who is out there competing now, doing very well in competition. He's a very good fighter, starting to he's still growing, but starting to have a little bit more control over his body to some extent and stuff. So it'll be nice to see that sort of that combination of all that training, all his time that he's put into the dojo, and see hopefully it will shine through tomorrow. And then one of the other kids, little David, again, young kid, he's only 11 or something, but I was watching him train. Like yesterday was his last class he was going to do. He's going to do a private with me today, but last class he was going to do yesterday, he was just pinging away, and again, he was a kid who was, always the naturally gifted ones, always like kind of coasting through it on his natural ability, but again, over the last sort of 6 months since he last graded, he's been, pushing. You see a massive difference in him, and hopefully.
Yeah, I used to say, I've seen him around. I've seen him when I come in on a Saturday or a Thursday before adults training, and I see him there. He stands out, like he's got this sallow skin and this bright blonde hair.
Yeah.
And I thought he was real, like his style is really loose. He's he's a typical sign of, he's a typical student of yours, super relaxed. Nearly to a fault.
Yeah.
But then recently I've been looking at him last few weeks, and I heard he was going for black belt, so I took a proper look, and boy, he's sharp.
Yeah.
Like he's really trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully that goes well. But that's another added stress on gradings, I think. Like last grading in March, April, I had 4 of the kids going, 4 of the young teenagers going, and little Sam, I'm sure everyone knows little Sam, but the wee man going for his showdown, and man, the stress I had sitting and watching them, like, man, it's worse than me going and competing or grading or something, watching these young ones go out, So I think that's an added stress, is especially if you've been training students for a long time and you have that sort of connection with them. When you you want them to do so well, and especially like even with the young ones, when you see them not fulfill their potential and stuff is devastating
Yeah.
for an instructor. Yeah, it's like but that's another added stress with gradings on top of parents and getting people ready for the day and having to argue with kids on whether they're ready or not. It's a very stressful time. Gradings are stressful. The only good thing about it is the training course that we have, you know?
Yeah. But back to parents, right? So, parents who want their kids to do well, that's fair enough. Parents who put on the pressure, that's fair enough too. Parents who interrupt karate class
Jesus.
to complain that their kid should know this stuff better and there's only so much time before the grading. This happened to me
Yeah?
quite recently.
Wow.
And I felt myself go red. Not with embarrassment, but with fury.
Furious anger to those who interrupt my class.
Yeah. But I had to keep my cool, and I was quite indignant that someone had a parent who had been sitting by had stood up to walk right up to me and have a word.
Walk right up to you.
Yeah.
Nah, man, my Gary to the chin. Yeah, into the bubble. Boom. Don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
I had to tell her pointedly that she was wrong.
Yeah.
And then turn away from her before I could say anything I'd regret and
Yeah.
continue with the class. She stalked away.
I mean, it's difficult because they're customers at the end of the day, yeah?
They are customers, but
Yeah.
this isn't, how much of our job is customer service? We're karate teachers.
You were there to teach karate, and as long as you know you're teaching karate, then they need to
Yeah.
to slow the roll a bit, yeah?
Yeah.
I think, was it, she complained about her kids not know, what was it? Was it kata, I'm assuming?
Actually, it was Uchiuke.
I was just one take, like,
Yeah.
Jesus. And what grade was this?
These are kids going for 7th Q.
Yeah.
No, sorry, 8th Q. They're
8th
going
Q,
for
yeah.
red belt. So that's when they need to learn Uchiuke. They've got Sotuke, they've got their Gedan Barai, they've got Stepping Forward Maigeri, and they've got to do Uchiuke and
What is it,
Shuto.
the full
Uchiuke and
syllabus,
Shuto-uke
yeah.
are and then the sidekicks. Those are the
Yeah.
new things for red belt.
Yeah.
And the kids were. How much can I say now without? I don't want to give.
Don't say names. Don't say how many kids.
No,
just
I'm
say
not going to say names.
the
okay,
people
so
involved.
The people involved, the student or students involved, were convinced that I hadn't gone through this before.
Had the rest of the rest of the class doing it fine?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. It's nonsense then, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard when you have parents breathing down your neck, sort of interfering with how you're doing your job. But that's it. Our students are our students, but who's paying for their lessons? Their parents.
Yeah.
So they've got to be dealt with. It's just another thing about grading and about the pressure coming up to a grading, because there is a fear that if you don't do a good job, not only is the kid going to be let down, but also the parent.
I've never understood if a kid fails. We had a situation where one of a kid, I haven't seen them since they failed one of their gradings, and I got a very angry message from the mother.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
And I haven't seen them since. And I thought to myself, okay, he failed. We didn't deliberately fail him just to make him feel bad, So there's definitely something that happened that caused that to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the failure has to be legitimate. Like, we don't just fail people, obviously. And it's like, but what are you teaching your child by not saying this is a part of life? You're not going to get handed everything. And that's why else do karate if not to, again, like I said, make life
To
a
face
bit
a
easier.
challenge, yeah.
It's a challenging. It's a discipline. It's something that takes a lot out of you to do karate, and that's why it's so valuable. When a kid fails a grading, as a parent, personally, I would think, right, well, this is how you're going to teach them that when they don't get that job, when they fail an exam, when they I don't know, when they get let go from their work or whatever it is, whatever trials are going to come through. This is an easy way, an easy, understandable way of teaching them. You've just got to get back on it and try harder and do it again, you know? But parents that come up and will argue it, pointing in your face. Like, I've been there at gradings where it's like a kid has it, and I've seen it happen where people come up and say, this is ridiculous, let them so-and-so passed, but they're so-and-so failed, that's and you're like, I mean, what are you teaching your kid right now?
Yeah.
And they should just be given everything regardless. I mean, I don't think that's healthy. I don't think it's preparing them for the real world, you know?
Well, the situation, I think, is going to turn out okay because these particular students have put in a few extra classes coming up to the grading, and I'm confident. I mean, I'm confident that they're able to do a good job on the day.
Yeah.
They know their stuff, and if they're practicing like they promised me they are, then they're going to be great, and then everything will have turned out fine.
Yeah.
But then on the day, sometimes shit happens. You make a mistake.
I've had, like, great example is Adam went for his Shodan last year, the end of last year, and Adam technically is one of the strongest.
He's brilliant.
In his age bracket anyway, as a teenager. He's one of the fittest. He's certainly very, very strong. But on the day, he had that mental block where he just forgot to ki on his in one of the Heian katas and forgot to ki in his kumite. So, like, you can't do that. You fail.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. Like, we all seen him do it a million times on the dojo. Scott says he's seen him do it a million times. I've seen him do it a million times at the dojo. But me personally, I was like, do you think he's got it, Ross? I was like, no, I'd fail him because he's forgotten his ki. And that's just. But I know that if tomorrow you could do it again and pass, or you could give him,
Probably not, because he still forgets to ki all the time. But he has gotten his black belt since. He got it in March.
Yeah.
And
he killed it in March. Like, it was.
Yeah,
like,
he did a great job.
And
he was always going to pass as long as he'd remember to ki.
Yeah.
But then I have him. He helps me with my Saturday classes. He assists me down in West Park in Tala. And whenever I get him to help me out teaching them 5-step sparring, we demonstrate for the kids. And I go, okay, now Adam Sensei counters. Does he ki? No. So I have to kick him across the dojo, and the kids love it.
Maybe he does that to teach the kids.
No, he doesn't.
No,
he
not
does
at all.
not. No.
But you get my point, though. Is that, you know, there's a guy who you would give it, like, that the day before he graded, you're like, yeah, I'd give you a black belt right now, judging on what you've just done in front of me. But you have to do it in that moment. And he doesn't do it, you don't get it. Like, and I've seen kids who are excellent but have a moment where they just freeze during their kata, or they stumble in wrong leg, wrong hand. It could be maybe because like when they're paired up with someone, maybe that person starts making mistakes, so they start making mistakes, and you kind of have to go. I mean, you maybe give them a second chance if they're young enough, but, like, you know, if there's a higher grade, then it's like, well, you should know your stuff, you know. You have to mark it down, and that can be the difference between a pass and fail sometimes, you know.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. But parents who fight against instructors who are making those decisions, I just don't. And interrupting a class, man.
Yeah, I hope that never happens again, man. I don't know if I'll be able to.
Oh, man.
It came close. I think she could see how upset she'd made me. And by upset, I mean furious.
You ever had a parent interrupt a class?
No.
Do you let the parents watch your classes?
See, the parents are, they come into the waiting room, and it's like separated from the training room. So they're just in a waiting room, and I get a monitor up where they can view
still watch the class.
They're still watching the whole class, but mainly
That's cool.
Peeked my head out, and they're just out there on their phones.
Yeah.
You know, they're not really paying attention.
That's fair. Oh yeah, a lot of parents sit by and look at their phones, read a book. Some parents come in and study. I've seen people, like, with their folders and their study books out and getting ready for a course or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, on the other hand, I think Jane deals with the parents. I mean, that's kind of her thing. So I think she's had a few situations where, you know, but I don't think it was really, you know, nothing with the teaching or gradings, because like I said, I don't have the same situation with gradings being the issue onto it. Sometimes it's maybe if I changed, we had a move where we was renting or leasing a space, and we bought our own building, and then we had to slightly change our time schedule onto it, and little changes and something like that. You get the parents. And it's very few. It's not like but there's always somebody.
The ones we deal with are very few and far. I mean, like last grading we had 250 grading, and I didn't hear any feedback of complaints or anything. Was there any complaints?
No, last one went really well.
Yeah,
all my students did well.
It is very rare, but when it happens, that's why when it happens, it sticks out because you're like, oh Jesus.
Thinking about it now, we do have, including our schools and after-school programs, over 700 students.
Yeah.
And
you maybe get 3 of them complaining out of the whole year, like 3 complaints out of the whole year.
Yeah, so it's just upsetting when it happens, because we try hard.
And you can't, and they're not on the dojo, so you can't give them
and you get those.
Excuse me, my son had bam bam. Off the dojo, you cow.
And like I teach at different schools. Like after school programs like you guys do, or school programs, and it just seems like you don't always get the same response from a student like you do at the dojo.
Yeah, definitely.
It's always there's just a different feel. They're just getting out of school generally for me, so they're all usually hyped up. They're thinking maybe in their head, they're like, oh, this is recess.
The problem with schools and after-school classes is, in my opinion, is that the kids already know each other. They're already friends. They already have this banter or this this relationship where they like messing about. They like pushing the boundaries. And you have your class clown who knows it's his job or her job to be the class clown.
And they're well aware you're not a teacher.
Yeah.
I remember, like, my school, like, even when we were in primary school, my class had some animals, some proper animals in that class. I remember any time the teacher was ill and we had a substitute, it was like, even for a good boy who never got into trouble, like, for bad behaviour at school.
Such as yourself?
I was an angel at school, man. And I remember, like, the substitute teacher came in, we would all be like, oh yes, what are they going to do today? Like, you just sit in the back with the popcorn watching chaos unfold. Like, and it was, like, as a kid, man, it's hilarious. So yeah, you can understand why they take full advantage of it.
It's very challenging.
Oh, definitely. When I take myself out of the situation, I think those kids are only trying to have fun. And in fact, a lot of the stuff they do, I admire them for it. Like, that took a lot of balls, what you just did there, but I have to give out to you now, and I have to make you, I have to make you sorry you did that. Because my job is to teach karate, and you're interfering with that. But then when I think about it afterwards, I'm like, we would have been friends.
I mean, it's funny. Like, I remember at school, one kid came in, one substitute teacher came in, and the kid, Daryl Thompson, was getting in trouble. And
shout out to Daryl.
Come up to the front desk, so I give you a warning. What's your name? And he gave some other kid's name. Then he ran out of the class, and the teacher went chasing after him. So the class went crazy. Then he came running back into class and hid, and she ran in, and he's like, "Is he over here?" He was hiding under the table, and then there was 6 teachers running up and down, in and out of the class looking for him. Chaos, like absolute chaos. So I think that with karate, at least with karate, they're supposed to be running about or doing physical activities. So you have that little bit of an advantage over
over trying to make them sit still.
Have to teach them fractions or whatever,
Yeah, but then when you have kids who are here in the dojo or in a regular karate class that isn't anything to do with school, they only know each other within the context of karate class, which is behave time or else.
Mm-hmm. And you always again, as soon as they're in, they see good behaviours rewarded, bad behaviours not tolerated. Like, so they the dojo classes 9 times out of 10 are little angels.
Yeah. So it's less than a month to Denmark, which means it's less than a month left on the road
to Nidan.
Skjow. Yeah. So I've been actually, you know what? This week just gone by, I've been feeling pretty good.
Yeah, because you were a bit down last week. Yeah,
last time we spoke, I was feeling really bad about my kihon. But just last night, we did a great. Scott ran a great. You didn't. I know you didn't enjoy the class for.
I enjoyed it for the first like half hour, and then
you were yeah.
And then when we were doing literally the same thing for the hour, I was going a wee bit crazy. I was like,
well, I was getting a lot out of it because the class was based on the Nidan syllabus, so I was willing and ready to indulge in the repetitious nature of such a class. Yeah. So the more we fired out those combos, the better for me.
Yeah.
And I just felt, sometimes when you're in the dojo and you just feel like you're on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, I know obviously it's never going to be perfect, but usually when we're doing the Kihon, I start off and I think, just before I push off the back leg, I'm like, this is going to be shit. And then I do it, and it's usually pretty shit.
Shocking attitude.
And so that was there in my head, and I was like, this is going to be shit. And then I did it, and I was like, ooh, it hasn't felt like that before. That was all right. I didn't wobble too much there when I landed, or I didn't, that was a bit more relaxed leading, as I stepped through, or the hip vibration actually worked that time, because I struggle with that. My hip vibration is poor, generally. But last night, I was feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you were looking sharp last night, man. I'm saying it's all coming. You're peaking quite nicely. I think it's important that you peak at the right time with these things. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can overtrain when it comes to gradings, when it comes to competitions and stuff. But I think I think you're starting to really move smoothly, move well. It's all coming together.
And another thing, earlier in the week during morning training, Scott had a look at me doing MP, and usually I get a few nuts and bolts corrections, which I got, but then I got a correction which I felt really good about, and it was basically more feeling. And I thought, oh, cool, I can do that.
More feeling.
Yeah. So
feeling.
Yeah, so that's what I got to do. I got to correct those few things that are still not quite there, and then give it a bit more flow and a bit more feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, how's the road to Yondan?
I had a nice wee, after the class yesterday, I asked Tommy Sensei to watch me just doing some katas and, be as harsh possible. And we went through the whole bunch. It was the ones I can be asked is Teki Nidan, Teki Sandan, Jitte, Kankurai, Basadai, Gion MP, Hangits, those 8 kata. So I went through those 8 kata with Tommy's eagle eye, and very, very valuable feedback. Just how to make things look a bit sharper, how to just, times where maybe I'm not, utilising my movement to its maximum. It's a bit lackadaisical at times, but man, I felt good last night. I felt in the zone. I was I was in the mood to be fixed, Sometimes, you just, you're fatigued, especially, with the amount of training we do. Your body's always fatigued. It's always sore. Last night, I felt good. I felt, warmed up. I was ready to go. And, yeah, just savage. Having that little session with Tommy last night was really, really, really valuable. And yeah, I'm feeling like I'm coming up to this nicely. I'm feeling sharp in when we do kumite in the mornings and stuff. I feel sharp when we're practicing our katas. I'm feeling put together, going through applications and stuff for Sochin, which I'm going to be doing in Denmark, and yeah, I feel comfortable. There's nothing there. I've been asked, I think, just about to justify every technique, to apply every technique, and one or two obviously a little bit trickier than others, but I think I get through it relatively well. The explanations are there, so I think it's just, man, again, just building up so I peak for the weekend, and just making sure I go out and just perform as well as I can, I'm feeling good.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, dude. It's going to be fun.
Well, it's time.
It's time for the fails of the week.
I'll go first.
Go on then.
So, as I mentioned on the podcast probably before, I got a sore ankle. Did I mention that? Well, I've had a sore ankle.
I haven't heard the end of it.
It's been really, really sore for a long time. And so last week, it was so sore. And I decided I needed a break from training to help my ankle get better. So, after morning training on the Tuesday, I said, that's it. I'm not going to train tonight. I didn't train the next morning. And then Thursday came around. I didn't train on Thursday either. So I was taking a proper long break from training. I was coming, I think I came in on Wednesday and I helped do some filming while you guys were training, or was that Thursday? Anyway. And And then the next Tuesday came around, and I hadn't trained in a full week. And I thought, well, I better get back at it. I can't take too much time off. And then I did, and the ankle was sore again, and I was complaining again. I had ice on it and everything. I went to the physio the next day, went to my physio appointment, and she told me it was sprained. And I thought, yeah, no wonder, it's been really sore. But apparently a sprained ankle isn't such a bad thing.
Me and Scott immediately looked at each other and just started laughing, like, for fuck's sake, we were expecting torn ligaments, fucking, like bone fragments, something, like the amount you've been going on about it. It turns out you got a wee boo-boo.
No, a sprained ankle is no joke, man. It's sore.
Fucking, man, I sprained everything all the time, like, oh. Like, Scott's training with no cartilage in his knee. And you've got fucking sprained ankle. Like,
well,
it was very funny. Oh,
I feel your pain.
Funny. It was such a typical, like.
I thought pure vindicated when I knew my ankle was sprained. I was like, I'm gonna tell them now. The physio said it was sprained, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, maybe you need to rest some more or something like that. Like, no, they just burst their holes laughing at me.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no sympathy in this dojo, man.
You gotta have thick skin here, man. No one's gonna feel sorry for you, no matter what. Your turn. Fail of the week.
My fail was quite like, for me. It was quite funny. Nobody else was here for this one, but I was in the shower in the dojo, and we've got the squirty tingly. As we call it.
Well done. Now hold on.
We got just some very cheap shower gel that stings when you apply it
in a nice way,
in a tingly way. But like the top of it was like if you can imagine, like a Lucasade sport bottle.
Yeah.
It's like that. And I squeezed it, but it's too much kime when I squeezed it, and the cap came flying off, and it was about half full, and the contents came. Felt like it filled the shower, man. The floor was covered. I was slipping, nearly pulling the shower curtains off.
That's why all the tingly stuff is gone.
Yeah, it's all gone. But that was like, nobody else is here for that. But that for me, I was like, God, it's a good thing nobody else is here, because I was falling about, wee naked bum, like hanging out the shower, like. So yeah, that was amused me anyway. That was my fail of the week.
Yeah.
Kevin, how was your turn?
I may have the fail of the month. So it all starts out great. So maybe not to some people's ears if I say, yeah, I went out with Ross Sensei and Tommy Sensei on a Sunday night.
Out with the lads.
Bank holiday weekend, you know?
Yeah. So it's like a bank holiday, so nothing going on Monday. So yeah, I think we decided we'd get an early start. Maybe was that a little early start? You think?
We started at about 7:30.
Yeah. And then I remember saying, "Oh, it's going to be a long night." I'm like, yeah. But it was a great night. All up to the part where I'm getting out of the cab to make it back to the dojo and hit the pothole out here.
Have you ever been to the dojo? There's an alleyway, and as you go down the alleyway, there is a sinkhole from hell. like it's literally the gateway to hell is in front of the dojo, and Kevin obviously doesn't live here. First time, doesn't know the potholes there. Yeah. And what happened, Kev?
Yeah, I hit that pothole and fell right on my face. I mean, luckily it wasn't like flat on my nose, but my right side of my face. I wake up in the morning. Who knows how long I was laying in that alley? It may have been a while.
The foxes know. Come on, God, I'm sniffing you like.
But I wake up and I look, and you could feel something's like different. So you go look in the mirror and you're like.
I came in the next day. I came in the next day to clean the dojo, and I saw him, and I thought he'd been attacked. He looked gruesome.
Yeah. Did I piss him off last night? Yeah. So that and you're just coming in, and you're meeting everybody, and you get to come in, and your eyes like swollen and puffed out.
Yeah.
It's like, never. What did you do?
That's the first thing everyone said was, Ross, what did you do to Kevin? I was like, as if I'm some bully. Shocking.
Best control in the dojo.
Yeah, I have the best control in the dojo. Hear that, Scott Sensei? Best control in the dojo.
Yeah, so just a rough way to start out. It's like one of them, the best and worst of the first weekend.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, the best was going out with Tommy and Ross. The worst was
getting home again.
Going out with Tommy and
So I mean, when you come here, guys, on a bank holiday weekend, be prepared. Like,
Yeah.
me and Tommy don't play around.
Unfortunately, guys, we have to say goodbye. I've got a private class starting right now with
Yes.
Leoden. Say hi, Leoden. Too shy.
Too shy to say hello.
Well, you missed your chance for podcast fame.
You're about to be the most famous student in the dojo, but okay.
Yeah. No. Okay. Who are we even podcasting to?
The
She asks.
millions
We
of
have
people listening.
several listeners.
People care about what we have to say.
Speaking of
All
whom,
around the
listeners,
world.
please do get onto iTunes and leave a review. Hit follow on Spotify. We're on Acast now, by the way, which is a cool little app for podcast listening. So yeah, what else? Oh yeah, Hombu Dojo Podcasts on Facebook. Hombu Dojo Podcasts at gmail.com if you want to get in touch or send us a Facebook message. HDKI Karate on Instagram. Oh, I'm exhausted after all that.
Like,
That's
subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Get the bell on YouTube.
Us.
Get notified when they're out. And we'll be back very quickly with Paul Uren Sensei and Christian Oigarden Sensei, who will be here tomorrow. We'll do a great close with them, and then we'll have a nice chat with them tomorrow. It's going to be great fun.
Yeah, busy weekend.
So hopefully he's come out.
Thank you, folks. Oh, Steve.
Oh, Steve.